Hello friends, I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your old house? Things where you are? I hope everything is good and great and wonderful. Everything here is fantastic. Other than the fact that I'm wearing the same shirt again today because I can't bathe. We don't have water. I mean, we have water, but it's still on a boil advisory, so I'm just not bathing right now. But whatever. Lots of feedback on the pumpkin yesterday, which is interesting because that to me was I guess that was the most interesting part of yesterday's video. Like me talking about doing something like that isn't really, like me talking about the mentality of why I made that thing is not really the important part of that video. I should have just talked about the pumpkin. And it seems to be everybody likes it and thought it was very whimsical. To answer one of the questions I got, no, I didn't Google it. I didn't have my phone with me. I did something. I think I walked and got the mail and then came back and my phone was upstairs plugged in and I was like, I'm going to go play in the garage real quick. And, Em said, okay. And I came down here and I just made it. So I didn't have my phone. I had nothing to Google. So when I showed you the notepad, I literally just grabbed a notepad, drew a little pumpkin guy. I was like, oh, that works for me. And then I took the wood and I took a pencil. I laid the wood out. I hadn't joined it yet. And then I drew it out. And then I took a Sharpie and traced it and then cut it out and did it. I would like to say that I will make more of these. I would like to have like maybe a little family of them, like a taller one and a shorter one or something. And I probably have enough like pallet wood maybe. I could do, this looks like cherry to me, some slats of cherry or something. And I have 4 or 5 pallets behind the house right now graying, aging, because of the signs that I like to make people, I like to have that gray aged look. So they're back there aging. I probably have enough wood, and I'd like to say, yeah, I'm going to make a family of them. I'm going to make more, but chances of that are very, very slim. For whatever reason, with me and things like that, those itching, like I have to do this thing, I very rarely ever repeat. Very, very rarely. In fact, the only reason I ever really repeat is if somebody goes, I want one of those, It was an idea that I had in my head, and I wanted to see what it looked like, and the only way for me to see what it looked like was to make it. And I've done that, and now that idea is dissipated, and I don't have to think about it anymore. That was the entire point of making it, was just to get it out of my head, make it, and go, there it is, it's done, and I can move on with my life. I have no intention of starting, a pumpkin... a rustic pumpkin decoration business. I'm not going to start making these things in bulk. It was a one shot, like an idea in my head, let's make one. So while I say I would like to make more, I'd like to make a little display of them, chance of that happening, pretty damn slim. I've very rarely, an example would be a few years ago, and hopefully I have a picture I can show you. I made a lighted rustic tree that sits on my front porch, and I had a whole bunch of this really rough some sort of wood that came from my parents had their house wrapped in stone, and it came from those pallets. And I was like, I'm gonna make a little tree to put on the front porch. And so I made one, and and then I had really no intention of making more, but I think I ended up making 2 more. I made one. Em wanted one for her mom, so I made Em one, and then I think my mom wanted one, so I made her one. And I would not have made those had they not, like, quote, commissioned me to do it. Because it was an idea that I had. I saw that wood, and I said, I'm going to make a lighted tree to put on my front porch because I wanted to hide the outlet that's there when I plug the Christmas lights in. And I just did it, and I've never made any more since. Some people have contacted me and asking me for prices, but I'm not really doing it for the business, right? I just do it because I enjoy doing it. And I don't know. When it comes to doing something like that, I have to go now, if I want to make another one, I'd have to go through the effort of finding the wood and deciding, yes, I'm going to do this. The making of it was probably 20 minutes. When I tell you I took a pencil and I drew what I drew on this notepad and then Sharpied it and then cut it, that was the majority of the effort. It was 10 minutes of that, and then 5 minutes of me gluing it together, and then, or maybe 10 minutes total, like 20 minutes between drawing on some pieces of wood, cutting it, and stapling it together. Maybe I will make more, just because it is such a simple project, but we'll see. But, I've been reading. I told you last week I was going to read The Stand. I am now a quarter of the way through The Stand, according to the Kindle. I say according to the Kindle because sometimes I've read books where the book finishes and I'm at like 80%, and it's because they'll have glossary and a sample chapter from the next book, and so the Kindle, that little, it's telling me I'm at 25% right now in The Stand. And I guess I probably will review The Stand when this is all said and done, when I finally get through the book. I'm reading it much faster than I thought I would. It is Stephen King, which, good or bad, his writing is very easy to read. He doesn't really try to confuse you. It's Stephen King. I have a really weird relationship with Stephen King. People who love Stephen King just obsess over everything that he's ever done. I enjoy the feelings that he invokes, but I don't necessarily enjoy his writing. I enjoy the story, but I don't necessarily enjoy his writing. And that, having said that, I've read the entire 7-book Dark Tower series. I've read that series twice. Well, let me take that back. I've read the first 4 books twice, and then I read the last 3 books 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I've read The Shining, and I've read some of his short story collections. I don't remember the names of them, but I've read some of the collections. And The Dark Tower, the first couple of books, probably the first 3 books, The Stand, The Shining, the short stories, you can tell as a reader that the author writing those books didn't have any idea what he was writing. And I don't think that's me being mean. King says that's how he writes. He sits down, he designs a character in his head. I want to take this guy and I want to see what happens to him. And he just starts writing and starts throwing that character into situations. And he is going on an adventure figuring out what this character does while he's in the process of writing. And his books very much read like this kind of, let's make it up as we go. He's good at it. But I don't really, it sticks out to me a little too much. It stands out like a little too much of a like, man, if you would have revised just a little bit, if you would have just taken a little bit more time to polish this, it would have been great. But instead, it's this really stream of consciousness. And The Stand is, I think, probably one of his earlier works, late 70s works. It really sticks out that the way that he writes. The thing that I really like about his style is he writes his books almost as if he's watching the movie and he's just describing a movie to you. So unlike some authors, I should say unlike most authors who have been trained in traditional writing techniques, authors will often give you narration based on the character that you're currently embodying. So you're currently embodying somebody, and you'll get narration based on that character's presence. King likes to use a more of an omniscient narrator, so he gives you that perspective, but he also we jump in and out of the person. So we will see things from that person, then we'll also see things that person has no clue or no context for, and then it jumps back in, and he's describing, sights and smells, and which is wonderful. I wish more authors would do that, but he's describing a whole second, third, fourth layer over here, and it just kind of meanders around, and it can be captivating. And obviously, I'm 25% of the way through the book, and I don't think I started it until Friday night, so that's not bad for a 1,200 page book or whatever this thing is. It's a beast, but it can be a chore. It can be a chore to follow him through these meanderings to get to where he's going. And that's part of the reason I've never really been a huge Stephen King fan, just because there's so much of that. There's so much just kind of loose wandering through the world. It can be very distracting. But It's very easy to read. He doesn't use big words. He doesn't use big concepts. He just, I almost want to call it just vomits on the page, in a good way. I'm not saying he's not a good author. I'm just saying I've never really connected with him the way I connect to more salient, more cohesive story. His stories tend to be a little less cohesive, and for some, that's exactly what they want. So, I think he's. I think that the little guy from a small town in West Virginia has no room to say whether he's right or wrong, because he can just look, hold up the 750 million copies sold banner and go, well, you're obviously an idiot. And I go, yep, you're right. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, I just meandered. This entire episode was just a chapter out of a Stephen King novel. I just bounced between two topics. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, and being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I will see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is the last word in the C's. It is cynosure. It is a noun meaning a center of attention or attraction. This lighthouse was the cynosure of all eyes. Henry David Thoreau, an American author and transcendentalist. A cynosure. Cynosure.